In this video, I'd like to introduce you to my simple but infinitely useful app called Clever Notepad. Now, Clever Notepad is meant to replace the default Microsoft Windows Notepad that many of you are probably familiar with. This is one of Microsoft's oldest and very useful app that's been on all versions of Windows, and basically it's just a white pad where you type things. And I used to organize my entire life with Microsoft Notepad, but eventually I realized that I needed a few more functions that would be useful, and that's why I invented Clever Notepad. So Clever Notepad does everything that Microsoft Notepad does, but it does a few things more. Now, one of the original purposes of creating this app was to create a series of functions that would allow the user to modify, manipulate text in their document. I'm a keyword guy, so I'm always working with large keyword lists, but I also make lists for pretty much everything in my life. If you look on my hard drive, there are thousands upon thousands of text files that I've been creating for the last 20 years, in which I organize pretty much everything. And I'm always manipulating text and moving text around and trying to parse text and clean text between different programs, and that's what all these little functions allow you to easily do. A lot of these functions will be very familiar with too. You can see we have replace X with Y. This is the very common replace function that every text app has. Like if I wanted to replace soap with some other word like toothpaste, for example, then if I click this button, you can see that the words have been replaced, obviously. So that's just a simple replace function, replace X with Y. There's my X, there's my Y, and we just replace the text there. And of course, you can go through here, and there are dozens of text manipulation functions that would allow you to do things like add a word to the beginning of each row of text here, or delete all the numbers or the non-numbers, or even get all of the Amazon ASINs from a URL. This is an ASIN number in Amazon. Or if you are a web guy, or if you work with HTML, we can strip HTML tags or remove all of the email addresses or the URLs from a batch of HTML from a body of text. And we have demo videos that describe each of these functions in the application's help page. But after a while, after you get familiar with these, they're very, very useful. And another function in Clever Notepad is if you click on this headings tab, and that will allow you to display headings in your Notepad file. Now, a lot of apps are creating a sort of hierarchical tree on the left side like this. You might have seen this in Microsoft Word, and you might have seen a tree like this in Adobe Acrobat. But such trees are very useful because you can zoom to various portions of a text document very quickly merely by clicking on the actual item. And so this allows you to scroll through a text document very quickly. For example, if I were to create a new set of keywords down here, I'm just going to call this My List 2, then you'll notice that I've created a new heading here, and I can now go between these items just by clicking on these headings in our actual tree here on the left. So what's happening here is that Clever Notepad is simply programmed to look for a series of equal signs, and when it sees enough equal signs, it will just assume you created a heading like I've done right here, and it will add your item to the headings tree hierarchy. If you don't want to actually type the equal signs yourself, so you can just click the H button, and you can see it will add the equal signs for you, and your instance will be up here in the left navigation tree. Again, after you start using a heading tree like this, it becomes very addictive, and you'll wonder how you ever scrolled around a document without it, because I use such trees in Microsoft Word very often, and it really changed the way that I scroll around documents. Now, another very useful feature in this app is if you want to fill out a web form. Here we have a very typical contact form, and it has 4 fields for the first and last name, the country, and the subject. Now, if I actually have this content already typed out in a saved file someplace, then it becomes very easy to send this data to my form, because all I have to do is click this blue button here, and then I'll come over and select the first item in my form, and I'll come back here and simply click the blue check mark, and you'll notice that that sent the text to the first cell in my contact form. So I can do that with all 4 of these cells, or I can simply come back here, and instead of just sending one at a time, I can select the items I want to send, right click, and then send all 4. And you'll notice that all 4 items were sent to the web form. So if you're like me and you're always filling out these annoying forms for everything in life, then this will be really useful, because you can actually manipulate text and send text to a form pretty easily by using these little built-in form functions. Now, for another set of features which are infinitely useful is the app will let you launch a URL right from inside the app. So when I right click on this website here, I can actually open this in my default web browser, and you can see that Clever Notepad has just called up my Chrome browser and it's opened the Void Tools website. And I wanted to open this website because I wanted to tell you that the app also integrates with Void Tools app, everything.exe. Everything is a free app that will index your entire hard drive, which basically just means it just creates a large list of every single file on your hard drive. And this makes things very, very nice, because after you install this app, and again, it's free, this guy just works off of donations, you can see, and his app will allow you to search for a given file on your hard drive. So in Clever Notepad, if you surround a file name by quotation marks, then you right click on it, you can search his app, everything.exe, for that file, and you can see we've just located it right here. This is a cat picture on my hard drive. Now, if you think that your file is going to be the first item that comes up, then we have this shamrock icon here, which will actually launch this file instead of having to search for it. And this is very useful, because by clicking here, we simply launch the first file in the list. And this really changes everything, because it allows you to just put file names in your text document and be able to retrieve them at will. So you no longer have to scroll through windows in Microsoft Windows. You don't have to go and try to remember file paths or folders. You don't have to hunt for files. Instead, you just surround your file by quotation marks and search for it with everything, or just launch it with everything if it has a unique name and you think it's going to be the top value there. You can also simply open the files containing folder in the same fashion. This also uses everything.exe to launch the files containing folder. Or in Clever Notepad, you can reference the file by a Windows file path. When I right click on here, I can click the open button, and that will open up my Windows Explorer window that has my file right there. So again, this is infinitely useful, because there's no longer a need to scroll through file paths and browse through folders. You can just reference files directly, or you can reference folders directly by the complete Microsoft Windows path. So for now, that's going to conclude our little demo here. If you look in the Clever Gizmos app help section, you can see dozens of videos that will explain each function in Clever Notepad. But feel free to send me an email if you have any questions.